was in a really big rough patch with pornography and I was getting really sick of it. I feel like I was finally at that breaking point where I was ready to be done being able to talk to people every day who are going through the exact same thing you are. It's awesome.
All right, what's going on, Reboot team? Chris here with yet another testimonial from somebody who I really like, honestly, because this person has been with us for a while now. They're a musician and they have gone through like ups and downs of this program, but always just with a sense of resilience and with a sense of dedication makes their way back. And I'm so very, very much excited to have you get to know them a little bit. And yeah, let's rock and roll. I'm here with Anton. What's going on?
Hey man, chilling. I'm doing great.
Appreciate you hopping on. Let's start from the very, very beginning. So you are a part of our exclusive implementation program, and I want to know how things are going now. But first, let's start from the very beginning. Seems a decent place to start, right? How did you first discover the
Mhm.
program to begin with?
So yeah, my first time ever hearing about the program was obviously through the podcast. I was a junior or senior. Simon's a little bit fuzzy, but it was either the end of my junior year, beginning of my senior year. I was in a really big rough patch with just pornography, and I was getting really sick of it. I feel like I was finally at that breaking point where I was ready to be done. I wanted a little more control over my life and I wanted a little more freedom away from porn. So I was looking at my options. I found like a couple apps that helped you kind of keep track of your addictions, just period. And through that app, I saw a link to the Porn Reboot podcast. Now, obviously, I kind of left those apps because like the counting thing just wasn't working. Um, it just was like just not working in general. There's not much else to say about it. But through listening to the podcast, I started kind of implementing some practices on my own. So like journaling every day. I didn't really know what it was, but I started using tools like dialoguing before I even really knew what it was in the program. Kind of working on that inner monologue a little bit, trying to like work through that cognitive dissonance a little better. And by the time I graduated from college, I was super depressed. I was basically, I wouldn't say I was at rock bottom, but I felt horrible about myself. My self-esteem was as low as it could be. I just really wanted to get out of that hole by any means possible. So I think it was my partner who kind of brought it up to me, like, you've been talking about this, you should check it out. And I checked it out and I got signed up to get the free book reading first. And then I had my call with GT, who was my reboot strategist. And then we got it figured out to where I would join the program. And at first, I couldn't really afford it financially, but I got to a place where eventually I was able to make consistent payments. And now I'm just kind of working through it until I'm ready.
Man, and there's
Good.
so much to dive into there as far as your
Hmm.
experience of, like you said, kind of like willpower slash counting days versus working in the program. We'll go into the specifics of what your time in the program so far has
Yeah.
looked like. But can you kind of take us back to what was going on as far as like how you were feeling when you were kind of trying to figure things out on your own, like counting days versus working with the system? Like how would you essentially compare those two approaches?
I mean, there was significantly more frustration and significantly more shame that came out of counting days than there were when I learned how to kind of let go of that. I felt like when I was counting, I was trying to control all of the things that were out of my control. I didn't know what I could and couldn't control. I didn't really know anything about why I was even addicted in the first place. I mean, I knew why through counting, through solely relying on willpower. I was, in the long run, really making things worse for myself. I was basically keeping the cycle going. And so I just felt more frustrated. Then eventually, when I got to the point where I kind of relinquished that counting, I said through the group, I learned like it's not super helpful to count those streaks. Like, I think I got to the point where one of my longest streaks was like almost a month long. And once I broke that streak, I felt worse than before the streak even started. So once I got to the point where I stopped counting, obviously you're still aware that you haven't slipped, but that's not the focus anymore. You're not waking up in the morning like it's day three. It's more you're just waking up in the morning like, okay, I've got to do my routine. And then after a couple weeks, you're like, oh, I haven't even thought about this in a couple weeks. And it's just a passing thought because it's not the focus.
I love the way you articulated that. It's not the focus. It's oh, day three of not acting out versus all right, here I go with the rest of my life. Oh wow, it's been a while since I've acted out. it's not the star of the show. And I love the way you worded that. So walk me through like what that routine of yours has included. Like what have been some of the tools that have guided you and helped you out along the way?
Routines have been huge for me. Whenever I notice any sort of patterns, dealing with slips and things, it's always because like I just didn't do my routines. Or when I'm feeling urgent, it's because I didn't do my routines and I need to. Usually, what I do is I just kind of do it a little bit later in the day. But ideally, I kind of found that sweet spot where I'm waking up usually between like 7:30, sometimes a little bit early, depending on when I wake up. I'm doing the normal stuff. I'm waking up, I'm using the bathroom, getting a drink of water. I also like to get a drink of orange juice too because vitamin C is good for you, helps your immune system, and I do a lot of moving around. And I'm working with a lot of packages, so I don't want to get sick or anything.
Yeah.
So make sure I'm drinking water, drinking my orange juice, eating your Wheaties, just how it goes. And then when I'm doing my morning routines, I make sure that I start by writing down. I have a special journal that I like. My partner got me another one when I ran out of pages, but you circle the day and you circle the date, circle the month and date. So you don't have to write it down yourself, but it's just helpful for keeping track. You can just flip them and be like, oh, I've done it every day or so. And I like to write good morning to myself. Just like I'm writing my routines like I'm writing a letter to myself, basically. It makes it more personal and it makes me feel like I'm actually the one like saying this stuff. It's not just thought dumping. It gives intention to it. So I do that and then I do my affirmations. Every day I write, I'm willing and able, right? I'm capable. It's kind of half of the rational irrational exercise. It's taking that rational part and just putting it in your own inner monologue. And every day I make sure, right, this is something I got from Dr. Rankin, that today I will give the best I can get. If anything, at least I did my best. And then I'll go into my feelings exercise. And I will say, like, I make sure I do 3 feelings exercises every day in the morning and 3 in the evening. So just make sure I'm maximizing that. And then and then I do my goals. My 313, I like to remind myself every day what my goals are in 3 months, what they are in 1 year, what they are in 3 years. I kind of track that progress as I go. And even if I hit those goals, I still make sure I'm doing them every single day to reminding myself of that baseline, remind myself of what I'm going for on my reboot. And then I have my evening routine as well, where I basically do something similar. I say good night or good evening or whatever, depending on what time of day I'm doing it. Usually between like nine and 10 though, so it's usually good night. It's right before bed. And I'm writing my gratitudes, what I'm grateful for. And then I'm doing feelings exercise, and then I'm counting my wins and writing down my intentions for the next day.
Man, there's so well, thank you for sharing all of that. Somebody who, if this makes it to the YouTube channel or Spotify, or James, cut that out. If this makes it to the YouTube channel or podcast, some people might say, "Oh my gosh, like that's a lot of stuff." I'm curious, like let's talk about the benefits of that. Like really before we dive into anything else about the program, because here you are again learning these new approaches, learning this new sense of self-awareness, right? And I'm curious, like building up that sense of awareness, whether it's your emotional patterns through something like the feelings exercise or just patterns in the way your brain operates through something like the rational irrational exercise. How has that self awareness aided you in your reboot?
Well, I mean, it's exactly as you said, it's being aware of those patterns, being able to, like, when you're about to slip, being able to catch why you're about to slip. And whether you slip or not, aren't, it's not unclear. Like, you can see that and you can understand. Like, for me, basically every single time I've slipped, it's been because of some sort of interruption in my routines. Every single time, and it's without fail. I have slipped when I have been consistent in my routines, but generally it's because of a change in your routine rather than I just didn't do it. Like there was a time when I was starting my new work schedule a few months ago, and the schedule was completely different. I had to wake up significantly early. I had to go to bed earlier, and it's not like I was feeling strong urges, but I was unprepared, therefore, in the morning. It's like it was more likely for me to just not think about it than it was to just say, oh, I didn't do my routines. I mean, it was more of like, oh, I woke up, I do my routine, blah, blah, blah. And then I pull up my phone and I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Because it's 5:30 in the morning rather than 7:30 in the morning. That's a 2 hour difference in where you're thinking at. So doing those routines, you're able to kind of be more aware of what's actually going on in your head and where you actually are mentally. Like I can tell when I'm super tired when I'm around routine, I can't even think of my feelings. And I just have to sit there and meditate for a few minutes to kind of build up that awareness. And then in the long run during the day, all that brain fog is already gone because you've already done your routine, you've already gotten all the brain fog out onto paper. And then by the time you actually go to start your day, you feel more awake, at least in my experience. So just knowing what's happening around you, being more able to navigate your day because you've already set up the baseline to be able to navigate your day. You know, I'm feeling good or I'm not feeling great. And then you do your rational, irrational, or you do some sort of dialogue and you just figure out how you need to go through the day. What does your best look like?
I love that. I really, really do. It's you set up your baseline for like a successful day, and the brain fog is gone. Why? Because you've made a conscious and intentional effort to get a feel for what you're working with, approaching rather every day like it's brand new, and really taking the time to be like, hey, how's Anton doing? Like, really before I dive into anything else. So I really, really, I'm happy for you. I love that. And you shouted out Dr. Rankin earlier before.
Yes.
Shout out to one of our coaches, Dr. Howard Rankin. On that same wavelength, I'm curious, how has the group coaching sessions been a benefit to you in your reboot?
Yeah, I attended a lot more than when I first started. I don't attend them as much as I'm going through, and it's mostly a scheduling thing. Once I started actually getting into a regular job, because before I was basically unemployed. I was working a lot of like door-to-door sales or like odds and end jobs and stuff, so I had a little more time. But still, when I can make it, I do go. And sometimes it's the same thing, but it's not like the exact same thing. It's like the same topic with a different viewpoint on it. Like a brother will bring in a question about feeling really like it'll be very simple. It's like, man, I just don't feel confident in my ability to journal every day. Or I really don't want to do what I know I need to do. Like that's when it comes up a lot. It's like I don't want to do my responsibilities. And this comes up in Rankin calls, this comes up in Eastman calls, this comes up in Milan calls. All three of them, this is a pretty consistent topic, and all three of them have different strategies. But obviously, they're coming from different expertise. Milan helps a lot with shifting that that thought process a little bit. That's kind of what I pulled a lot from his calls is kind of like when you're feeling like you don't want to do something, something I started doing because of the Milan calls is I started gamifying my actions a little bit. I started making it something that felt a little bit more desirable to do. So like when I'm at work, I'm taking it an hour at a time. I'm trying to accomplish a certain threshold in that hour. And in my head, I see it as like a literal progress bar. Like, am I how far am I away from the finish? And that's why I love the job so much because I can gamify it. And it feels great when I hit my goals. And when I don't hit my goals, instead of feeling crappy about myself, I'm like, well, I just hit it this hour. And it's like it's awesome. Or like when I'm doing chores, I'm gamifying it. It's like what can I get done in the next hour? And if I'm procrastinating, I'm like, okay, this is kind of hindering my progress. I'm not going to get to that next level if I'm keep procrastinating. So I get up, I do it, and it doesn't take as long as I think it does. But because I kind of made it something desirable, it feels easier to just get started, get your foot in the door. Dr. Rankin, that was the big thing he helped me with when I had that question, like in the beginning about like what do affirmations actually look like? What does that actually look like when you're putting in your morning routine? And it's that affirmations aren't just I'm a cool person and I like myself. Anybody can write that down, but it's not actually doing anything as far as like setting a goal for yourself. Affirmations is I'm going to treat myself a little better today and putting that intention in there and you kind of holding yourself accountable in that way. I'm going to, at the bare minimum, do my very best every day. And so I write that now every day. And I know that I'm going to do my best every day. And I do. It's just adding that extra step in the morning makes it more real and doesn't it makes it more intentional. It's not by accident I did my best. I set out to do it.
It's not by accident you did your best because you affirmed it. Like there's
Yeah.
accountability that's there. I love that. And think of the root of the word affirmation. It's something that you want to
Mhm.
it's something that you want to bring into fruition. So I love that. Shout out to Dr. Rankin, Coach Milan, Dr. Eastman for again, like those different approaches to make your life as good as it can be and have your reboot be as like well-rounded as it can possibly be. That's awesome. And one thing that I also want to know about is how's your experience been like in the Facebook community?
I've had many APs my time being there, and I found all of them through the Facebook group. And they all have different opinions about the group, they all have different opinions about the program. But one thing that I've gotten from it is that I have those opportunities to build that community. I would say that all of my accountability partners have been great accountability partners when I had them. I've had a couple falling outs, and it's not like a bad thing, but like it's more of like they're just ready to move on. So, but I think when it comes to accountability, that's like what the group for me has kind of in stride has done for me. It's given me accountability that I didn't have. Like when I was doing it on my own, I would say my biggest struggle was accountability. It was just me. I was just trying to do everything by myself. A couple people in my life knew that I had this addiction and I was struggling through it, but they weren't able to provide the same support that I needed because first off, they weren't experiencing the same thing. They didn't really understand it. And second, I kind of asked them to keep it hush hush. So for them, it's like, how am I supposed to support you if you're really not asking for that? You're just kind of asking me to know about it and support and like just kind of have that empathy rather than taking action with you. And for me, it was also keeping my personal life kind of separate from that. Now I know that rebooting is part of your life. And it's a lot different, but I wouldn't have learned that without the group. I wouldn't have learned that without accountability partners. Really, you could do the program without accountability, but I really couldn't even see how. um, I know there are people who have done it, and I commend them for that, but being able to talk to people every day who are going through the exact same thing you are, it's awesome. Like it is like for me personally, I thought I was really unique in the fact that I was exposed to porn at a young age. I'm like, man, no kid should ever go through that. That's awful. And then I learned almost everybody, it's like they've experienced it at some point in the youth and just didn't know it, or they did know it. But either way, it's the same result. Eventually, it comes back to them, and it's like, I would have never known that if I wasn't in a community of people who were all going through that same thing. Like I'm still struggling with stuff from my past that wasn't my fault, but now I have to take responsibility for it. And I felt like I can't do that. Well, I can, but I felt like it's much more difficult to take responsibility for something if you don't have people kind of reminding you of that along the way. And now I've gotten to the point where I can, but I would have never gotten to that point without the reboot heroes, without accountability calls, without people in the group telling me like, hey, have you ever considered that maybe you're kind of pushing this problem off on someone else? And I was like, no, I haven't. I never considered the victim mindset.
Mm.
That's not something I ever thought of myself as being until I think Andy Hillman, he's a really good brother in the group. He brought that up to me one day. He was like, have you ever considered this might be falling into a victim complex? And at first, my first reaction was like, oh, such an asshole for saying that. Of course I'm not doing the victim complex. But then I dialogued about it. And I was like, no, he's completely correct. Like, I'm not doing anything about this. I'm just sitting on my ass and expecting things to change.
Man, there's gold and you're on fire today. I don't know, there's something in the water, but like I want some of it. But nah, it's great. And shout out to Andy, our reboot leader in the implementation
Mhm.
group as well. Man, no, I'm so glad that you've had those experiences because I can certainly relate. It's a space where, yeah, obviously, the more the merrier, and community is the antidote to isolation. No doubt about it. But yeah, it's people that are gonna set you straight, all out of a place of compassion, all out of a place of love, and of course, all coming from a place of like, hey, you're not in this program for no reason. We want to see you win. We want to see you follow through with the thing that you wanted to do when you first joined. So we're here to be challenged. There's the common phrase that's used like iron sharpening iron. That's the heart behind what
Mhm.
we do. So I'm really, really glad that you've not only received that kind of help, received that kind of insight and that kind of accountability, but the fact that you're following through with it and reaping benefits in many ways. And it's a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. This is only the beginning, which is really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And there's a question that I love to ask on calls like these, and it's essentially putting you in the position of coming into contact with somebody that is struggling with an out of control compulsive behavior, right? They're kind of on the fence as far as, I don't know what the next move should be, I don't know what to do, and just in this place where they're just struggling in silence in the way that you and I know about very well. Having learned what you've learned so far and having experienced what you've experienced so far, is there anything that you would want to share with that person or tell that person?
Yeah, I mean, the first step is just doing it. Like it's so easy to get caught up in just standing there twiddling your thumbs and not knowing what to do. And it does take a lot of effort. So like I want those people to know like it's not like you're doing nothing in that moment. Like you're doing a lot of writing, you're doing a lot of thinking. That's a lot of energy you're putting in to
Oh yeah.
doing nothing. Like it's just way too much energy being put into doing nothing, and all you're doing is going around in circles. And for me, that's exactly what I did for almost a year after learning about the podcast. So I listened to the podcast, I did my journaling, but I also did a lot of thinking, I did a lot of writing, and a lot of nothing and with that. So when I finally did take that step, I finally like sent that email, read through the book, read through the little free book, scheduled the call with a reboot strategist. And when I finally did all of that, it's like the dominoes, you're like positioning the dominoes at a certain length where you can finally hit the first one and they start falling down. It's not like one domino is like an inch away and it's not never going to hit the other dominoes because you keep putting it in this distance. You're finally putting things in place, and then once they start falling, like you're not going to be able to stop them, and you're like you have that control because you're the one who put them in place in the first place. So you just have to put your foot in the door. And if it's not for you, it's not for you, but you're never gonna know if you don't do anything. And that's what I did for so long is nothing. And I've had points throughout being in the program where I've been like, oh, I didn't need this, blah 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 blah. And then I look back to where I was a year ago, and I'm like, without this program, I would still be where I was a year ago because I was doing nothing. Like I would be horrible headspace, shitty mindset, bad work ethic, because I was just letting myself be depressed and having a horrible mindset 24/7. And it pulled me out of the trenches so I could at least have a chance. And now I think I'm doing better than just having a chance. Like I'm actually progressing, taking my destiny to my own hands. Like it's even if I'm not a rich billionaire who has everything, I feel like it sometimes because I do have at least what I need rather than having nothing. And that just I can't really complain too much about where I am right now because I know that it's only going to go up from here because of how I put myself and how I worked toward that. And I don't think I would have gotten out of that hole without just putting my foot in the door and joining it.
That's really, really encouraging, and I'm really, really excited, happy for you. Sincerely, it's really, really cool. So sort of with all that context in place, sort of, I guess, a follow-up question. You alluded to this, but essentially, to that same person, would you then recommend this program?
I would. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like I said, it doesn't have to be the end all be all. It's different for everybody, but it's worth giving it a shot. Like I've received different levels of feedback from different brothers who are also rebooting either in the group or outside of the group. And I don't know a couple of people, but I've heard stories of people in other groups. And it's just getting your foot in the door. It's just looking for that community aspect because you're not going to find a community like it basically anywhere else. I would say like if you need accountability and if you need community, and if you're looking for a system, not just like little tips and tricks, if you're looking for a system, like I would recommend just putting your foot in the door, at least just to start, taking those first few months to see if it's working. And like I noticed immediate progress when I joined, at least as far as like mentally goes. For me, mental health was a huge issue, and I felt my mental health getting better. And for that, like that alone, I would say it was completely worth it. But I would have never gotten there if I didn't at least try it. So yeah, definitely recommend it. And nothing but growth since. I mean, I know it's peaks and valleys. It's always peaks and valleys. But at the end of the day, I started here and I'm up here now. So that's
There you go. I think it speaks a lot to, of course, not only the fact that the program works, but it works when you work. And I've
yeah,
seen it in
yeah.
the work, and I'm sincerely really excited for you. I'm really, really happy for you. I really appreciate you, just in general, but for sharing your insight and sharing your experience. Anton, thank you so much for just being a member of the community. And I'm really happy for your growth and I'm really happy for your progress. And I said it before and I'll say it again, this is just the beginning. So, all the continued best.
Absolutely.